Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Snipe, Celly. My name is Dan Bradley, and you may have noticed that by the layout here, we do not have Joel Fernino with us tonight. Joel is somewhere on an airplane right now. He's flying back from Vegas. He had a nice trip out there, made some money on some hockey bets as well, which we always love to hear. So we'll have to pick him up about that on the next episode next week. So it's just me tonight. So anybody who wants to have a comment, prediction, spicy take you want to share throughout the show, would love to hear from you. You can drop a comment below. We are live on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Twitch. We are having some difficulties with Facebook. We're hoping to get those worked out soon. So it's just YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter tonight. But for the next half hour or so, it'll be just me. No Joel, but we'll get his touch on the show as well. Because we have quite a bit of NHL playoff action that we need to talk about, starting with one that's going to take place here in just about an hour. We've got an 8 o'clock p.m. puck drop tonight between the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche, after beating the St. Louis Blues, they advanced to the conference finals. Edmonton winning the Battle of Alberta, the much hyped Battle of Alberta that absolutely did not disappoint. It was beautiful. It was chaotic. There were high-scoring games. There were not quite low-scoring games, but medium-scoring games by these team standards. We had Connor McDavid with an overtime game winner to advance Edmonton through to the second round of the playoffs. A blistering scoring pace for both McDavid and Draisaitl. Each of them 7 goals and 19 assists for 26 points in the playoffs so far. And I mentioned it earlier that Connor McDavid is the best player remaining in these playoffs right now. But Draisaitl really keeping up with that scoring pace. Depending on the result of this series and point totals potentially after that, I would hear an argument if Edmonton somehow does not advance to the Stanley Cup final to give Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl the Conn Smythe Trophy as the MVP of the playoffs. As far as picks go on this series, I think for Colorado, for both teams, really, it comes down to goaltending. Mike Smith has been okay in net for Edmonton, and by the numbers of goals saved above expected, he's actually 4th in the playoffs. Now, part of that is the fact that he's seen more shots against, so those numbers are going to get a little bit of a bump. But he is 4th among playoff goaltenders in goals saved above expected. First on that list, by the way, Jake Ottinger, who was eliminated in the first round. Ottinger, the Dallas Stars goaltender, who lost to Calgary really through no fault of his own. The Stars unable to get much offense going in that series against Calgary, and now Calgary eliminated by Edmonton after poor goaltending of their own, poor team defense as a whole. And this is really going to be an entertaining series. We get what the fans want, honestly, what the NHL needed with Nathan MacKinnon versus Connor McDavid. Granted, there's a lot more to it than just that. It's a team sport. It's a team game. And the series will not be won or lost by the individual performances of MacKinnon and McDavid. But seeing those two on the ice going toe-to-toe at the same time for the majority of this series, it gives you goosebumps as a hockey fan just thinking about it and knowing that we're just about an hour away from puck drop in that one. Going to want to be sure to tune into that one. As far as Snipe Celly predictions for the show, I'm taking the Colorado Avalanche, and I think it's going to be a relatively quick series. Colorado's team defense throughout the playoffs, but especially going back into the regular season as well, has been excellent. It's been top tier throughout the season. You look at guys like Cale Makar and Girard, who have elevated their game in these playoffs as well. And just as a whole team, they're so defensively sound that I think it's really going to make things tough for the Oilers. Plus, I'm still worried about that Oilers defense. It's been shaky. We've seen some of the ridiculously high-scoring games with Edmonton throughout these playoffs, but they haven't run into a defense like Colorado. On the other hand, Joel is taking Edmonton to win in 7, which means not only is he picking Edmonton to beat Colorado, the team that won the Western Conference in the regular season, the top overall seed in the West, but he's also reversing on his own pick because he previously when he originally, before the playoffs even began, he said Colorado over Edmonton in 6 games in the playoffs. Joel not here tonight to give his pick, but he did text it in. And he said he is going to take the Edmonton Oilers to win this series in 7 games, meaning Edmonton on the road in Colorado for Game 7 will walk away with a win. Now, we've seen road teams win Game 7s here in the playoffs. We'll touch on that in a moment with the Rangers and the Hurricanes. However, man, I wish Joel was here so that we could have a nice little debate on this one. Joel taking Edmonton to win in 7. I'm taking Colorado to win in 5. So that series could be on the brink by the time Joel is back for next week's show. That series could be evened up. It could be looking like it's going to go the distance. I certainly hope that we get 7 games with McKinnon and McDavid on the ice against each other. 2 of the top players in the league right now. If you don't have them in your top 5, I really question your top 5. It's about as good as it can possibly get. And it's going to be a very, very entertaining series. But we also shouldn't forget about the other series going on, the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning, the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs, beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, who people thought the Leafs were probably going to win that series. Then moving into the second round, playing against the Florida Panthers, who had won the President's Trophy as the top regular season team. Tampa Bay turns around and sweeps Florida out of the playoffs. Quick series. Couldn't believe how quick that one was over. And now Tampa's had some time to rest and regroup a little bit. The Rangers upsetting the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina, a massive 6-2 win there. A 2-goal game for Chris Kreider, 3 points for Mika Zibanejad. But the real story for me, Igor Shesterkin with 37 saves on the game, and we get a goaltending matchup for the ages. We get Igor Shesterkin and Andrei Vasilevsky, 2 Russian goaltenders who will go toe-to-toe throughout this series. Big save after big save. Vasilevsky, arguably the best goaltender over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Igor Shesterkin should be winning the Vezina this year as the top goaltender in the NHL for the 21-22 season. And yet, I don't know that series will necessarily come down to the play of either one. Looking at the teams as their point totals throughout the playoffs so far and some of the team stats, the power play numbers, Tampa Bay at 22.9, the Rangers power play at 32.5. I know it's tough to sustain power play in the playoffs, but it's hard to argue against how good that Rangers power play has been. Then you turn around and look at the penalty kill, and Tampa Bay has the advantage there, 87.8% on the penalty kill. That's the best of any remaining team. Washington and Dallas are the only 2 ahead, and both of them were eliminated in the first round. Then for the Rangers, that penalty kill at 80.5%. Only Colorado is lower among the remaining teams. So special teams could definitely be a factor here. Joel and I, again, differing on our picks in this series. I took the Tampa Bay Lightning to win. I think they'll win in 6 games. And I think the big reason for that is the experience, the poise that they have. They're the 2-time defending champions for a reason. To be the best, you got to beat the best. They have been the best. So right now with the poise that they have, the composure, the experience of those last couple of cup runs, they really, to me, are the team to beat remaining in the playoffs right now. That said, the Rangers are playing very, very good hockey right now. They have a young team, but they do have veteran leadership as well. Players like Zibanejad, like Kreider, like Artemi Panarin playing well and stepping up. But then you have some young guys who are making their impact on the team as well. Igor Shesterkin, who has not been a part of very many playoff runs. Adam Fox, 18 points as a defenseman and got the scoring going last night for the Rangers. This should be a very evenly matched series as well. And that's what you want this time of year with the conference finals. You want it to be a good matchup. You don't want a sweep in the conference finals. And I don't think either series will really come close to a sweep. I think we'll have very evenly matched games throughout. Joel is taking the Rangers to win and also in 7. Now, the difference here, the Rangers and the Lightning were tied with 110 points each in the regular season standings. However, by virtue of their finish within the division standings, the Rangers took 2nd in the Metro Division and the Lightning were 3rd in the Atlantic. So the Rangers have home ice in this series. For Tampa Bay, that really hasn't meant much so far. They were on the road against Toronto, they were on the road against Florida, and now they'll be on the road against the Rangers. Joel took the Rangers to win in 7. I'm taking the Lightning to win in 6. If you have predictions that you want to share, whether that's on the Oilers or the Avalanche or Rangers Lightning, excuse me, certainly let us know on those. We'd love to hear from you on Twitter at Snipe Celly, or during the show here tonight. As mentioned, it is going to be a shorter show with the playoffs as they're continuing to go here. The Rangers and the Lightning tomorrow night, but I'm going to go back and talk a little bit more about the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche here. And I'm calling up the odds for tonight's game, which is about an hour till puck drop here. Edmonton plus 160 on the road, Avalanche minus 190. Those are your odds on the money line. As for the puck line, Oilers plus 1.5 is minus 145. Avalanche minus 1.5 goals at plus 125. I do think that based on what we've seen in the playoffs so far, that this is the type of game that Colorado will win, but Edmonton will cover. I do think it will be a close game. It is going to be a raucous crowd in Colorado tonight. It is no longer the Pepsi Center. I'm blanking on the name of what Colorado's new arena is. It's been the Pepsi Center for so long that it's weird for me to not call it that. But Avs fans, they're loud. They support that team. And even despite the offense that we've seen from Edmonton throughout the playoffs so far, I think Colorado wins tonight. I do think Edmonton keeps it close. I'm hoping that we're not seeing any more of those goals. As funny as they were to see Mike Smith give one up from almost 200 feet away, a puck that was just casually thrown on net that slides past him and into the net. I don't think that's going to be the type of thing we should get used to. I do expect to see a strong showing out of Darcy Kemper tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see both McKinnon and McDavid on the score sheet. I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see them there. And I don't think I'd be surprised to see both with a goal coming out of this game. The over-under is set at 7, and the over-under tomorrow night for Lightning Rangers is set at 5.5. So that should tell you something about the goaltending standards, the offensive outbursts that we've seen. I think 7 is a little bit high for tonight. I would take the under personally, but it wouldn't surprise me to see some higher scoring games throughout this series as well. So my pick for tonight is Colorado. My pick for the series is Colorado, but Joel taking Edmonton in 7 games. Then for tomorrow, as the Eastern Conference Finals gets underway, odds there still early. These could change a little bit here, but the Lightning on the road are favored in game 1 at minus 130 on the money line. Rangers at home, a home underdog. We love home underdogs on this show. Rangers plus 110 as a home dog. So really have to think about who's going to win game 1 in that series. I'm picking the Lightning to win. But as for game 1 tomorrow night, that could be tough, especially as the Lightning haven't played in, I believe it'll be 9 days by the time that series is set to start. As for the Rangers, coming off a win the other night, the momentum is there. They won with their backs to the wall, down 3-2 going back home to New York, and then winning game 7 on the road. The team is riding on vibes right now. They really are. So I really have to wonder if the Rangers take game 1. Tampa Bay, are they rested or are they rusted? Having not seen some of the action there. But I do think the Lightning will power through and win that series. Joel taking the Rangers in 7 to win at home. He's picking 7 games for both series. I picked the Avalanche in 5 and the Lightning in 6. So that'll be it for tonight's show. It's just going to be a short one. It was just me. So we're going to put a wrap on it here. No 2 minutes for roughing tonight, so we'll have to be back for that next week. However, some exciting news as we get Joel back. This will also be the last week in this apartment for me. So we're moving next week's background. The show will be different. We're working on some other changes to the show as well, some additional branding things coming up. We have some more guests lined up as we move towards the off season, so stay tuned for things there. But that is it for tonight's show. Be sure to tune in Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and on Facebook. Huge thank you to Noop Sports and the Sports 2.0 Network for giving Joel and I this platform each week. We love to take some time to sit down and just talk about hockey, and it's awesome to be able to do part of that process with such a great network, the Sports 2.0 network of shows. Coming up at 8 o'clock tonight, by the way, in the Green Bets. That'll be right here on the Sports 2.0 YouTube and Twitter channels. It'll also be on Twitter at In the Green Bets. So go give those guys a follow as well. They do great work throughout golf season, which kind of a nice little tie-in with hockey as well, as at this time of year, all the players are hitting the links for their tee times. We like to say that as teams are eliminated. So that is it for tonight's show. Be sure to tune in next week for Joel, who is not here. My name is Dan Bradley. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.